soul must descend into Hades before it ascends to Olympus. Eleusinian Mysteries. They never told you what spiritual awakening actually feels like. It's not love and light. It's breakdown, isolation, crushing realizations. You wake up and the whole world starts to look like a lie. The pain, real. The confusion, overwhelming. But you're not alone. Because when your soul begins to crack open, the gods take notice. This video is for those who are awakening, and for those who feel like they're breaking instead of rising. You are not being punished. You are being remade. No soul awakens by accident, and no awakening happens without pain. In ancient Egypt, awakening was the path of initiation into truth. The initiate was stripped of illusion, forced to walk the path of Ma'at, divine order, even through chaos. He who would rise must descend into the Duat, for in the darkness, he becomes divine. Temple of Edfu inscription. In ancient Greece, it was the Delphic oracle that warned, "Know thyself, and endure the fire of truth, lest you return to the shadows." In the Vedas, awakening was never soft. The soul, caught in slumber, must be shaken by fire and storm. From this pain, it returns to Dharma. Rig Veda. The moment your eyes open to the lies of the world, you become a danger to the system, and the gods protect those who step into this fire. But it is earned, not handed. Most people will never awaken. They will die as sleepwalkers. They will never ask why they exist. They will never question the poison in their own minds. But you did, and that has a cost. Spiritual awakening is not a comfortable process. Despite the sugar-coated image it's given in modern media or shallow self-help culture, awakening in its true form is a breakdown, a complete and often violent undoing of everything false within the self. It is not a retreat into comforting beliefs or pleasant fantasies, but rather an uncompromising confrontation with truth, with reality, and with one's own internal contradictions. For many, the process begins with a collapse. A personal collapse, a spiritual collapse, or even a full existential crisis. This collapse is not a failure. It is not an error. It is the natural consequence of a soul beginning to wake up in a world that has been constructed to keep it asleep. When one begins to realize that almost everything they've been taught is a distortion, a lie, or a mechanism of control, shock and pain are inevitable. The modern world is hostile to spiritual awakening. It is constructed in such a way that the very idea of looking within, asking deep questions, or seeking higher truths is ridiculed, pathologized, or worse, medicalized. Society teaches individuals to suppress all emotion, all pain, all natural inner rebellion. From childhood, people are told to accept suffering as normal, to hide their tears, to repress their grief, and to internalize guilt and fear as moral virtues. This pattern of suppression leads to the total desensitization of the human being. People become emotionally dead, spiritually amputated, and eventually incapable of genuine self-reflection. They survive in a zombified state, animated only by routines, screens, and distractions, while their soul suffocates in silence. Since the takeover of Christianity as a spiritual and cultural force, this pathology has been formalized. Misery, guilt, and emotional torment became sanctified. The suffering individual is presented as holy. Martyrdom is elevated above transformation. Self-flagellation is praised above spiritual power. The message is simple. To suffer is divine, and to be strong is heresy. This is not an accident. Misery fuels the slave systems of the world. It creates dependence, obedience, and spiritual paralysis. And when the soul begins to rebel against this condition, when the process of awakening begins, Modern systems provide two controlled outlets. One is to be numbed with medication, to suppress the symptoms of awakening until they implode in private, or else result in permanent sedation. The second is to explode destructively, to embrace ideologies of resentment and rage. The Abrahamic Jewish structure of world control depends on this dynamic. Whether through religion, culture, or ideology, their primary tool is to redirect the pain they have caused back upon the people themselves. They turn suffering into identity, trauma into culture, and victimhood into a lifestyle. In this way, not only is the population kept spiritually weak, but they are also conditioned to defend the very systems that destroy them. But this entire process can be interrupted, and that interruption is the true meaning of awakening. Spiritual awakening is not simply about learning new information or adopting a new belief. It is a transformation of the entire being. It involves grieving what was lost, what was false, what was corrupted. It involves facing one's own pain, not running from it, not medicating it, not turning it into politics, but standing in it fully until it burns clean. This is not poetic metaphor. This is spiritual physics. Awakening requires suffering. But this suffering is not an end in itself. It is a purification. The process is violent because the disease is deep. A person must go through their inner underworld, what the Egyptians called the duat, what the Greeks expressed through the myths of Hades and Catabasis, and what the Vedic texts described as the karmic purification through lifetimes of discipline. This is the fire through which falsehood is burned and the soul is revealed. The mythologies of all high civilizations reflect this. In ancient Egypt, the initiate entered the temple blindfolded and terrified, subjected to trials meant to break the ego and reveal the essence. In Greece, the Eleusinian mysteries revolved around descent into the underworld and ascent reborn. The hero's journey always requires death before rebirth, not physical death, but the death of illusion. In the Vedas, awakening is impossible without tapas, spiritual heat, self-inflicted for the purpose of refinement. This is what society today teaches you to avoid. It trains you to be fragile, to be soft, to fear pain and worship ignorance. This fear of discomfort is the primary barrier between the modern man and spiritual transformation. But pain will come either way. The question is not whether you will suffer. The question is whether your suffering will be meaningful. We are living in a time where collapse is accelerating. And in this moment, the only thing that can prevent complete destruction is awakening, but not a soft, commercialized awakening. A real one. The truth is, many who are going through this now feel alone. They feel mad. They feel broken. But they are not broken. They are being dismantled so they can be rebuilt in truth. They are not weak. They are being tested. And this test is ancient. It is the path every hero, every initiate, every sage has walked. And when you come through it, you will not be the same. You will not be a slave. You will not be a puppet of religion, politics, or trauma. You will be something new, something ancient. A human being reborn in alignment with divinity. But this cannot happen unless people are told the truth, unless they are taught how to suffer properly, how to transmute it, how to return to the divine through the fire of awakening. That is why education, spiritual education, is the most urgent duty of this era. We do not have unlimited time. The collective breakdown is underway, but it is not too late to reverse course. It begins with the individual, with you. If you are waking up, do not run, do not numb, do not burn down what's around you in hatred. Take your pain and put it through the forge. Let the fire cleanse you. Let the truth remake you. And in that moment, know this: you are not alone. The gods are watching. They are near, and they are waiting for you to rise. Deep within the structure of the soul, it remembers. It remembers that in ancient times, the gods were the first ones called in crisis. Not because they stopped the pain, but because they taught how to walk through it. Not because they prevented death, but because they taught the meaning of it. Not because they erased suffering, but because they turned it into transformation. This is where true spirituality often begins. Not in joy, but in despair. The soul that has been shattered finally becomes still. And in that stillness, something ancient speaks. For some, the awakening begins at rock bottom, when there is nowhere else to go, when the world has turned its back, when the systems of man have failed, and there is nothing left. A quiet light breaks through the darkness. That light is them, the gods. They come as whispers, as symbols, as synchronicities that begin to cluster with eerie precision.